My name is Linda Sosniak, and I am running for state representative in District 84. That is the donut around Erenezer's donut hole, in case you don't know that. I have all the rural areas. It's actually probably the largest district in the state of Pennsylvania, land mass-wise. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Hughesville. I raised my children there. I was one of the founders of Pop Warner Football in Hughesville and Little Spartan Wrestling because I got tired of driving my children to Williamsport to participate in sports. So I have a 28-year public service with the United States Postal Service. I started out as a rural carrier relief. And I know you don't know what that means, but it means I was guaranteed 2.5 hours every other week. So I thought, boy, I need to work up the food chain because I have 3 children. So I did work up to postmaster, served as postmaster at Linden, at Milton, and I thought, boy, I like doing this job. So I worked up higher. I went to State College. I served as postmaster of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. I served as postmaster of Savannah, Georgia. While I was down there, I was selected to go to the Bolger Leadership Academy at Washington, D.C., and I passed. I went through that program, and I served as the Southeast Area Disaster Coordinator. What that meant was if there was a hurricane, a flood, if someone brought a gun in the post office and started shooting, or if there was anthrax, I was responsible to take a team in there to deal with any of those disasters. We even were trained how in Savannah to load people in the nursing homes into the LLVs and take them to the airport just to get them to higher ground. We weren't putting them on an airplane, but we were taking them to higher ground. So I did that with the Postal Service, and then I left Savannah and I came to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and that's the last office that I served at Postmaster. Probably in my largest office, I had 270 employees, and I worked with 4 unions and 2 management organizations every day. While I was with the post office, I decided to run for a national office to become the national secretary-treasurer of all the postmasters in the United States. I campaigned in 47 states, and I did win that election. I was the first woman ever elected in the 100-year history of that organization. Was in that position, I got to lobby in Washington, D.C. for 2 years. I got to work on behalf of the constituents, the public, because during that time frame, they were looking at taking the post office to 5-day delivery, if you remember that back a while ago. And it would hurt the small businesses to not be able to have 6-day delivery. And then I worked on the benefits and pay packages, talking to legislators on behalf of the employees of the post office. I live in Pitcher Rocks now with my husband, Johnny. I'm retired from the post office. He's sitting over there, that handsome guy. With our family, our 2 dogs, Fancy and Reese. They're our children now. So I'm on the Pitcher Rocks Borough Council. I was elected there. This is my first year, 2018. And then I was elected to be on the Pennsylvania State Borough Association. I serve on the Constitution and Bylaw Committee. So that's a little bit of background about me. So what do I support? The main thing that I talk about when I'm out, I talk about public education. We need to adequately and equitably fund public education. Public education is the main place that our children are educated. We do have a few go other places, but the majority are going through our public education system. So a lot of our leaders come from our public schools. The other thing we need to do is make sure that we have our pre-K available and affordable for all families. That's not occurring right now in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania ranks 47th out of the 50 states per capita investment in higher education. I will support PA Promise, which would provide 2 years fully funded or reduced tuition at a state-funded school, or a trade school or alternative education. This would also include grants for adults who have fallen out of the workplace and they need to get workforce training programs so they can get back in and get better paying jobs. The next item I support is high-speed internet. It should be a basic infrastructure. It should be just like water or electricity. It is necessary for families and businesses. It's a bare necessity. Despite access to the internet being essential, growing Pennsylvania's economy and expanding our educational opportunities, 800,000 Pennsylvanians have no high-speed, strong, reliable internet. Of these, there's 525,000 that live in Pennsylvania. And let me tell you, I've been traveling around District 84, and a lot of them live here that have no quality internet. We need to ensure that every Pennsylvanian has access to high-speed internet. The state should fully support the PA Office of Broadband Initiatives, which is establishing a strategy to reach this goal. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit is the minimum wage. Our minimum wage has not been increased since 2007. All of the surrounding states around us have increased their minimum wage, but we have not. We need to immediately raise our minimum wage to a minimum of at least $9 an hour, with the goal of raising it to $15 an hour by 2024. This increase is long overdue. I am pro-union. I grew up in a Teamsters household. My father was a Teamster and my mother was a seamstress. I do not support right to work. I believe that unions have a rightful place in our economy. Unions help ensure that fair wages, benefits, workers' protections, and safety are kept in place. It makes a safe work environment for the employees. And we need to work on making fair scheduling of workers' hours. I am pro-family and I am pro-choice. It's been demonstrated by other state governments that the most effective way to reduce the amount of abortions that women seek is to have family planning services. A woman's right to choose is an essential civil right. As a society, we cannot go back to the days of back alley abortions. Women must be supported in making their own health and family decisions. Another item I'd like to talk about a minute is property taxes. As I've been traveling around Lycoming County, let me tell you a little bit about that. All right, so there's 38 townships and 6 boroughs in Lycoming County. I thought, how could I get out and learn what's important to all these people? So I called all the townships and boroughs and I asked to be placed on their agenda. So I went to 25 townships over the last 2 months and to 5 of the boroughs. And I just told them a little about myself and told them I wanted to learn about what their issues are. But one thing I did find as I've been traveling is property taxes. We can't continue to allow our property taxes to rise. The elderly are on fixed incomes and they cannot afford the taxes to go up. A lot of them are losing their homes because of the property tax increase. And much of this increase is due to the problem with the financial crisis that our public schools are facing. The other thing I've ran into a lot while I've been traveling is many citizens in central Pennsylvania are having to choose between paying their bills or paying their deductible on their medications and health care. That's not right. We did not grow up in a society where people should not be able to get the proper health care that they need. So I think that we need to take a serious look, and I would support PA Healthcare for All or Medicare for All. We need to take care of our elderly. The opioid crisis is a serious problem, especially in Lycoming County and in the Williamsport area. It's a threat to the future of our young people. We need to create a system-wide training for young people, providing counseling and facilities where they can rehabilitate from their addictions. The next thing I'd like to talk about, how many of you were growing up, a lot of you are probably in my age group, you were brought up thinking that you treat people with dignity, you treat people with respect, you treat them with fairness. When did we stop treating each other with kindness, fairness, and respect? I think it's time that we go back to treating each other like they are our neighbors and they are our friends and that we care about each other. I was at a dinner that Bob was at, and my husband, it was Brotherhood of Lycoming County, and they were talking about William Penn and that he was the founder of Pennsylvania, and he came here because he was a Quaker and he was being persecuted because he wanted to treat everybody with love and fairness and kindness, and he was arrested several times. Well, that is what Pennsylvania is about. That's what he founded it for, and I believe that's what we need to start doing. You know, it shouldn't matter what our religion is, what our nationality is, what our sexual orientation is, or who we care to love. We need to get back to treating everybody with dignity and respect and caring about each other. So I've talked about a lot of things now, and several of the things I talked about cost money. So we need to create sustainable income that would take care of a lot of these items that I'm talking about. So one thing I fully support is to pass a shale tax on natural gas drilling, yes, or the severance tax. Most of the gas produced in Pennsylvania, or 80% of it, is shipped out of state. And someone in another state pays tax on it. And because all of our gas is shipped out, our gas is shipped in. It's imported. So guess what? We're paying severance tax from other states for that gas to come in here for us to use. So how is that fair? We're draining our natural resources and we're shipping it out to other states, and we're not gaining any of the revenue from it. So Pennsylvania is the second largest natural gas producer in the United States. And Pennsylvania is the only large state that does not charge tax to the gas companies that the value of the gas that's extracted from our ground. It's a natural resource that's going to be gone one day. If I had my choice, we would not have gas drilling in Pennsylvania. I believe we need to protect our land, air, and waterways. But if we are going to allow them to drill, then we need to charge them. You know, there's a proposal of a 5%, which would be more reasonable than a lot of the states around us, and it would generate a lot of revenue. The second item that I want to talk about is corporate tax. Over the last 15 years, corporate tax revenues have decreased by $3.9 million. Do you know why? We have the second highest corporate tax rate in the United States at 9.9%. But 74% of the corporations who do business here, like Walmart, Target, CVS, they pay no corporate tax in Pennsylvania. They use a loophole called the Delaware tax loophole. Because their corporate tax rate is lower, they report their income there, and they pay no tax here. So what I support is getting rid of the tax loophole. Well, the other part is, who pays the corporate tax? There's 26% that pay. Who pays? The local mom and pop businesses. They're carrying the load for everyone. So let's reduce the corporate tax rate to 6.5%, which would put us in alignment with the other states around us, so it wouldn't be such an incentive for the corporations to skip out on their fair share, get rid of the Delaware tax loophole, and have them pay their money here to us. We can use that income. So let's fix the corporate tax problem. The third item is fair share tax. Our state tax, income tax in Pennsylvania, is called flat tax. It's in our Constitution and bylaws, so it's protected and it's hard to change. We pay 3.07% state income tax. Everyone pays the same rate. People who make under $20,000 a year, that takes 12% of their net income. People that makes in the top 1% in Pennsylvania, that takes only 2 to 3% of their net income. So there is a proposal that we would get rid of that tax rate, lower the state tax rate, and create two separate tax rates, one on wages and interest, and everybody paid 2.8%, which would lower it from 3.7%. And the second tax would be on capital gains, dividends, business profits, estates, and gambling taxes. And that would set at 6.5%, the same as I told you about the corporate tax rate. So it would make it fairer from everyone. These three items that I've told you about would generate $2 to $3 billion a year. That would more than take care of our public school problems. It would help our kids not get out of college with a mountain of debt. We could help the kids with their higher education. So these are the suggestions or the things that I would support. And guess what? I am going to support those things because I know that I'm going to be your next state representative in District 84.